Goodman and Hummel podcast, and we got Robbie Hummel.
I'd known you since you were a kid.
I could blow my knee out, both knees, and still kick your ass.
We're trying to find the Robbie Hummel statue.
I wanted to kill you.
All right, welcome in another episode of the Goodman and Hummel podcast. I'm Jeff Goodman. He is Robbie Hummel. And how was your workout that made me wait for a half an hour here?
It was good. I'm honing my body so that I can destroy you in pickleball.
Yeah,
you were talking a lot of trash last night. You were talking some big game here, Jeff. You know, I think you feel yourself athletically. Softball, pickleball.
No, that's not true.
I can't imagine you're good at anything. I really can't. I can't.
You heard it.
Good at any sport.
You heard it last night from John Jacobs, the head coach at Florida Atlantic, who we played pickleball. Jacobs, his assistants, Jordan Fee and Todd Abernathy went down, and we played pickleball last couple of days. And I haven't heard from them today, which means I think they're scared of me.
No one fears you. No one fears you, except for the guy that made Divine Providence.
He does not fear me either, evidently. He does not fear me.
Yeah, but you got his movie taken off the internet. He might fear you for
true?
that.
It's gone?
I mean, the copyright
tried to watch it again.
infringement.
You would know because you try to watch it weekly.
I wanted it to win an Academy Award. I liked it that much. I didn't like I will say I didn't like the fact that they were just throwing rumors on there, but I did enjoy kind of just the circus that became around you for the Divine Providence.
You're so nice. You're such a good friend.
You say stuff too. It's not like, this is a two-way street here. This is a two-way street.
I mean, I think that the pendulum is shifting here to whereas now you've become the bully on this spot.
No, you egg me on. You literally incite me. You incite me is what you do.
All I know is you have now ducked me in Chicago and last year at the Final Four in pickleball. You have ducked me both places. Admit it. Admit that.
Did you play in Chicago?
No, but I told you I would play, and we were there, and you were a no-show. A complete
Are you talking
no-show
about for the Hall of Fame thing?
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but I had stuff to do.
Oh, come on. Are you kidding me?
Listen,
in the summer, in the off season, we know what you do. We know your schedule.
That's stuff to do.
At the Final Four, we had it all set up. Scott Drew, Homer Drew.
Okay, first of all, in fairness, I was working my ass off at the Final Four. That was not. I was doing stuff every day for multiple different things. I didn't get to have any fun. Okay. All my friends had this great time watching Purdue.
Listen, and we'll get to Purdue here in a minute. Judging by their performance last night against Marquette, they will not be making a return trip to the Final Four this season.
Look at who they lost. They lost. That's going to be a big hole to fill. But I was really impressed with Marquette. Yeah. Hey, you owe me an apology.
I never said what you're going to tell.
No. I'm not even talking about for that. I'm talking about for you saying, I don't know if Cam Jones can run the team. Because I took him high in our draft.
I said that. I totally said that.
Yeah, so you should apologize to me and Cam.
I'm going to apologize to Cam, who's, by the way, the Field of 68 fashion correspondent. I don't know if you knew that.
You dogged him for his game. He looks like he can run the team last night.
Well, it's hard. It was hard to tell last year.
Dude, I disagree because if you watched the end of the season when Kolek was hurt,
that's fine.
He did a good job of running the team. So I don't agree with that. I think that
I will say this.
Yeah, but he is a good player.
He's a great player. He's not a good player.
For sure. He's a great player. You don't get triple doubles in high major games unless you're a great player. And last night he was phenomenal.
I just thought, Rob, the thing that blew me away about Cam Jones last night was he was not shot hunting early. And then late, he just picked his spots. He literally, it was whatever the team needed him to do. He made huge plays and buckets late when it mattered, right? Like when Purdue was kind of, 8, 10, and maybe put a little bit of game pressure on. They never got it down to a possession. But like Cam Jones always had an answer, and it wasn't via his scoring always.
Yeah. And I think you look at the Maryland game, and they really needed him to score.
Yes.
He's going to be able to give Shaka Smart whatever the team needs. And I just think that he's one of the elite guards in college basketball this year, and he can make plays for others. He can score. And then defensively, they were blowing up Purdue's actions. I mean, just, Fletcher Lawyer's trying to come off handoffs. They are blowing every one of those up. And I think in fairness to Purdue, they're not going to see anybody in the Big Ten that guards them like that. There's not a ton of teams that can. Now, come NCAA tournament time, that would be a matchup that's going to be tough because, and I thought this in the Bama game, I thought Bama did a good job of getting to the paint. Now, they sprayed it and they just missed open shots. I was shocked that Nate Oates at halftime said he didn't like the threes they were getting. Maybe not the volume. They weren't taking a high volume of threes. They were playing in the half court, but I thought they got good shots off dribble penetration. And that's going to be something for Purdue all season long. How do they contain the bounce? Because they don't have the quickest or most athletic guards. Yeah. They're good players. But a team like Marquette, that is a tough matchup for Purdue.
And now, listen, the big difference is, okay, you had Lance Jones last year, right? Who was
and you had the rim protection.
And you had rim protection. So you had
like the ultimate. You have a guy that's protecting the rim at an elite level in the NBA now. That's a pretty different story.
Huge difference. And that, I also just think there's so much pressure on Braden Smith.
Well, I thought last night was the first time I've seen the game. They made it really hard for him. They really made him work. And that doesn't mean he had a bad game. He took some tough shots. He still had 11 and 9. He still had some pretty good numbers. And it's going to be interesting to see. And point guards in general do not want to give the ball up, right? Like they want to make the pass that gets them an assist because that's how they're judged, right? If you're going to hard hedge, and most people have played Braden Smith in drop because of Edey, and then Alabama did it because they wanted to keep Amori close to the rim. And you don't want to get in rotation, right? You're afraid of Purdue shooting. So if you hard hedge and Braden Smith gets around it, now, okay, you got 2 on the ball. So that means somebody's going to be open because you got to take away the roll. And Marquette was able to hard hedge, and that's going to be one of those things where, all right, we got it. If we're Purdue, you're thinking you got to either slip out the big, hit him, and now let him kind of into Draymond Green mold spray it. And I think Trey Kaufman-Renn can do that. But you don't want Will Berg doing that. I don't think you really want Caleb First doing that. Raleigh Burgess, we haven't seen him play enough. So, he's a freshman. So that's going to be hard. Or Braden's going to have to skip it ahead. If there's 2 on you, now Marquette was making things really hard for him. And he still made some really nice passes and plays. But Marquette did a great job of just making it hard. Nothing looked easy last night for Purdue.
No, their defense was elite. I mean, you look at, again, you look at those guys, Stevie Mitchell and Chase Ross. And
Stevie Mitchell is a beast. People don't know it because Kalkbrenner's won every one of those Big East Defensive Player of the Years, but Stevie Mitchell is an elite defender.
Yep. They've got a couple of them. I mean, they got a couple of them on that team right now. And Joplin.
And you mentioned Chase Ross, Chase Ross defending as well. I mean, he was really good in this game.
My biggest question mark was not really about Cam Jones going into the year. I knew Cam Jones was going to average 20. No.
Oh, my God.
Not about Cam Jones, the score. Not about Cam Jones, the score. But
revisionist history here.
If he's able to do what he did last night and make people better like that, it's just going to make life easier for the Joplins and those guys. I think
he can.
Yeah. I mean, showed it. Like it's hard, if you see that, like in some of the passes he made and the court vision and like the ability's there, right? Like you don't need to see that over and over and over. He's capable now because of what you saw out of him last night in terms of just seeing the floor.
But I liked even his post-game interview. Raph interviewed those guys, and I thought it was such a mature – even though they asked about the triple-double, and he was like, yeah, I knew I had 9 assists, but I didn't care. He was open, so I made the play. Yeah. I think he is so locked into what he needs to be doing. And I love watching that dude play, man. He wheels and deals, and he can hoop.
Are you now in on, like I said it last night, I totally underrated Marquette.
I honestly liked their personnel before the season. We talked about that on one of our pods. I like this team. They return a good amount. They've got guys that I think are ready to take a step up, like a Chase Ross. Sean Jones getting back could certainly take some pressure off Cam. You get a backup point guard. I think he was out with a knee injury and he hasn't played this year yet. But Ben Gold making those threes are big. And then Stevie Mitchell, like they had 11 steals. You talk about turnovers for touchdowns. Their defense helped their offense in a big way.
Yes.
And for Purdue, I think you have to be concerned a little bit. Outside of the Bama game, they have turned the ball over like crazy this year. And they've played some teams that are trying to turn you over. But yeah. And then they have a freshman in terms of Jakari Harris and CJ Cox, where those guys are going to have to keep, taking steps. And, CJ Cox had the great game against Bama last night. Neither of those guys necessarily played great. So
if I told you now, and obviously it's different when you just see a game like that, and maybe it was just a bad matchup for Purdue, right? Which I don't think it is. It's not a good matchup for Purdue. We know that.
You think it's a bad matchup?
Totally. I think it's a horrible matchup for Purdue. Again, Purdue, like, they're going to win a ton of games in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to win a ton of games. My question to you is, do you like the way Purdue is set up for an NCAA tournament run, or do you like the athleticism, the defense, the elite player? Obviously both teams have an elite player, but Cam Jones is more capable to me of well, maybe not. I mean, I don't know,
man. They're both elite players. Like, I wouldn't say he's more capable than Braden Smith or one way or the other. I think they're both tier 1 players in college basketball this season.
All right. So which team do you like in an NCAA tournament and a run like that? Would you take the more athletic, defensive-minded team like Marquette? And they both have like supporting casts that don't blow you away, Rob.
It's kind of a hard question. It's not an easy answer. I think Purdue, certainly their freshmen are going to have to keep getting better. And I would throw Miles Colvin and Cam Heide have got it. Like, who's the 4th scorer on Purdue? You've got Trey Coppin-Wren, you've got Braden Smith, you've got Fletcher Lawyer, and against Alabama it was CJ Cox.
Right.
And I think it doesn't have to be him every time. It could be Miles Colvin, it can be Jakari Harris, it could be Cox, but somebody's got to do that. And
it would be Heide.
They're going to need their big 3 every night, a lot like the team that I played on at Purdue, where it was like, all right, the 3 guys have got to really score, and that's okay. But who's going to be the 4th guy that maybe gets you over the hump? With Marquette, I would say more experience. Like, you're not depending on freshmen near as much. You've got guys that have played. So I think for that reason, I would say Marquette. And obviously the way they turn you over, I'd like to see them shoot the ball a little better. Even last night, they didn't shoot it great, 30% from 3, but the turnovers they force can help their offense. You've got a dynamic playmaker in Cam Jones. You've got athleticism. You've got guys that can certainly make it chaotic for an offense to play against. I think Ben Gold is a big key, though. And you've doubted him as well. And if he can give him what he gave last night, double digits and shoot the ball and spread the floor, that would be huge for Marquette. So I'll go Marquette because of their experience, but that's not saying that I don't think Purdue can do it, because I look at Braden Smith, man. He is an elite player.
Yes.
And
there's just a lot on him.
Good. Fletcher's pretty good, but they're going to need their role guys, players 4 through 10. Those guys are going to have to play well. And against Bama, they did. Those guys played really well against Bama.
So, all right, let's transition this a little bit to you've seen Purdue a couple times already. You're going to see them about probably 10, 15 more times. Yeah. Purdue, Indiana. You've seen the Hoosiers. And the Hoosiers right now are shooting 39% from 3, Robbie.
Still low volume, but they are shooting it well.
I'm like, hey, Mike Woodson will take it.
Yeah.
So right now, who's the better basketball team? Like, you've seen them both with your own eyes.
I think you have to say Purdue, because they've beaten the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah.
But I was impressed with the way Indiana played against South Carolina. Like, to shut down Colin Murray Boyles. Yeah. They were certainly effective offensively. It's like 57% from the field. I think they were 47% from 3. The big lineup was able to give SC some problems. Trey Galloway is playing at a super high level coming off the bench. And Kaden Carlisle finally played a good game. But I think the Miles Rice pickup is one of the underrated pickups of the portal Everyone talked about Ballo, and I get it. Like, he's huge. He protects the rim. He's a two-time Pac-12, first team player. But Miles Rice gives them a point guard that can run the show, play with pace, has great burst. I still think he's trying to figure out where he can pick his spots. He's had some games where he's been a little bit wild, but against South Carolina, he was tremendous. Had 23, was efficient, only turned the ball over 3 times. So I really like Indiana. I'll only say Purdue because they've got to win over the number 2 team in the country, and South Carolina is not an NCAA tournament team. So we'll be able to answer that better after the Atlantis tournament, where they could see Louisville, they could see Arizona, they could see Gonzaga in the second round if they're able to win. But even Louisville, I think that poses a challenge with the way IU guards, because they're so to the ball. If you drive and kick, Indiana with their philosophy is susceptible to that, and Louisville wants to shoot a ton of threes. Yeah. So that's going to be intriguing. I know Louisville didn't play well against Tennessee. But I think we'll know more about Indiana after the Bahamas, and I could better answer that question than I can right now. But because Purdue has that win against Bama, you'd have to go with Purdue.
I'm with you, and I still trust Matt Painter more than I do Mike Woodson, but it's also South Carolina, right? Like, you beat South Carolina. Now you beat them.
Well, they were like ISOing Nick Pringle. Nick Pringle never posted up. I bet he had 3 post-ups last year at Bama. He is lobs, rolls, and Murray Boyle was in foul trouble, and he didn't play well anyway. But if you're ISOing Pringle, you're not good. It's not his strength.
No.
You're not playing to Nick Pringle's strengths there.
No, that's my big thing is, you beat South Carolina, good win at home. You don't have a lot of, they played teams close in the first half in the bye games. I just want to see them.
And for Indiana, full 40. Yes, you want to see a full 40 minutes.
And I've loved what I've seen out of Mackenzie and Baco so far.
Oh, no doubt.
And I'm not.
We need to talk about him. His mindset has been awesome. He's better defensively, still gets a little lost off the ball. But the way he's rebounding, his attack mode, he's taken I think he took 1 bad shot against South Carolina, forced it once. Yep. But other than that, he's taking good shots. He's shooting it like crazy. He's one of the best sophomores in the country, and he has gotten a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, I think as much as anything for him, it was kind of the mental approach, right? Like, because he's always had the talent, I thought a couple of years ago in the circuit, when it's like him and DJ Wagner played together on the same AU team, and everybody's like, DJ Wagner this, that, and the other. I thought he was actually the number 1 player in the country at that point. And then I don't think he got much better his senior year of high school. Last year, he was not good defensively. And
when he got off to a really rough start, it was a tough start to his freshman year.
Yeah,
he finished the year playing really well.
Right. Even off the court, getting in trouble early in the season, all that. But yeah, to me, I think Mbako's, listen, they've got options. Like, that's what Mike Woodson has this year.
And versatility.
Yeah, a lot.
But they've got a rebound, though. For whatever reason, they're huge, but they are not always – they have, like, lulls. South Carolina had, like, 13 offensive rebounds. It needs to be all the time, especially because you want to play fast.
Right.
You can't play fast until you get the ball. So that needs to be solid. But I am really looking forward to watching Indiana down at Atlantis.
All right, give me your – and we're recording this before Alabama plays tonight against Illinois. It's Wednesday, but you saw Alabama in person. Give me your kind of quick breakdown on Nate Oates' team, which isn't full. They're not whole yet, obviously.
No, young blood will make a big difference for sure.
Yeah, Nate loves his toughness too. He thinks he might be his toughest player overall and bring that intensity.
Yeah, I thought I said this earlier, I thought they got good threes. Not a good volume of threes for what they want to take, but they were open, man. Like, the dribble drive, got to the paint, sprayed them. Sears didn't play well, 15 points on 15 shots. But even from watching them, I watched all of their first 2 or 3 games. I was like, man, they're not playing that well. But then you look at their roster and you're like, dude, they're stacked. Yes. Like, you look at their talent and you're like, man, they're huge. They could play Nelson, Stevenson, Amori in the front court. and that can pose problems. They can go as small as playing Nelson at the 5. Like, you talk about versatility. Alabama has crazy versatility with the ways they can play, and their pace scares you. Purdue kept them on a transition the entire game.
Which is
I don't know
crazy.
if they had. They had 0 fast break points.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is, and I don't know if that's happened to Nate ever.
Probably.
I mean, that's
Probably
like an insane stat. Right. And then the rebounding wise, I thought maybe they could get Purdue on the glass, and it was by like 3 or 4. Purdue held serve in that regard. So I was really impressed with LeBaron Philon. That dude did not fear the moment. He was in attack mode. Man, his hesitation, like, he is so stop and start, but he lives in the paint. He made shots from the perimeter, which hasn't necessarily been a strong suit of his the first 3 games. But I loved his mentality. Yeah. He went into that game, and the environment was off the charts. I mean, it was as good as you'll ever see it. Put it up there with Fog Allen and Cameron, like, it was that good. Yeah. Yeah, but Purdue was that good. You know, that place is that good of an atmosphere, and he wasn't shook at all. Whereas you look at maybe like Darion Reed or Aiden Sherrill, like those guys, they didn't look nearly as comfortable. Yeah. Aiden Holloway had a tough game, but he's certainly talented. I like the talent, but it was just kind of like they're not playing all that well. They're not shooting the ball very well. You know, I think they were 9 of 29 from 3 against Purdue. They were 0 for in the first half. You know, Jaron Stevenson has really struggled with his jumper. He's 0 for the season. But I like the talent. They're one of those teams, I think, too, that because there's so many new faces, there's so many transfers, there's so many freshmen that are high-end players, but they're still freshmen. Yeah. Like, the floor is a little bit lower that they're starting at, but their ceiling is crazy high. And as they get young blood back, that's a team where in March they could be terrifying. Defensively, they were not good. Purdue carved them. And I think, you know, the fact that Purdue had 3 turnovers, then we watched against Marquette, or you watch the A&M Corpus Christi game for Purdue, they're throwing the ball all over the place. Purdue was better with the ball, but a little bit of that's on Alabama. You know, like they are not going to impact you. Now, Nate said he feels like they're ahead of where they were last year. I don't know if that's saying much because they were awful on defense early in the season last year. But I really like Reitzel. Amori is an interesting, you know, he's going to be what he is,
his
right?
Fit
like
there, right?
He's not shooting. He shot some threes at Rutgers. He will catch lobs. He'll roll, protect the rim. I was surprised the way that Trey Kaufman-Renn moved him, and he did the best job out of anybody. But he still was, you know, Kaufman-Renn was giving him buckets. So, like the team, I think they've got a ways to go, and I agree with you that Youngblood coming back would be a big boost.
You know, I wouldn't worry about Alabama until it's like January.
Yeah, if they're still playing like this in conference play, it'd be like, this is.
And it's 2 things. It's 2 things for me. If they're not shooting it well, because you can't play the way Nate wants to play if this isn't a really good team collectively shooting the ball. You know, it's like he wants to play like the Celtics, right? He wants to take a ton of threes. The Celtics actually weren't great shooters a few years ago when they started this, even under Brad Stevens. And collectively, they've become better. Their personnel has been more tailored to that system. I would worry that, you know, are they great shooters? Is this a great shooting Alabama team? Number one. Number two, there's a lot of mouths to feed on this team.
That's for sure.
Youngblood back. Are you going to be able to keep everybody happy if you're not winning? If you're winning at the highest level, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, it cures all. It's like the cure-all.
But if you're not,
like a guy like Aiden Sherrill, who's committed and he's a top 35 player, and then all of a sudden you get Amori out of the portal, you know. And again, if you're winning games, fine, but that will be one to watch. I think we should talk about, though, before we finish, because there's a dearth of so many good home and homes in college basketball, that props to Purdue, Marquette, and Alabama for playing these games.
No doubt. I kind of want to do this. Maybe I'll do it later this week or next week. I want to go through been meaning to go through the non-conference schedules of these teams, and the haves and the have-nots, right? Who's played people, especially, again, you can break it up into categories, right? Like the guys with job security and the guys without. Because the guys without, like, throw them over there. like Ben Johnson at Minnesota, we know you don't need to play anybody. Like, you're saving your job. You're trying to save your job this year. But, the guys, the Nate Oateses of the world, Painter, Bruce Pearl, a lot of these guys, Izzo traditionally, they play people. And then you got TJ Otzelberger, who I love, but like, dude, you got to play people with this team, a top 10 preseason team. You are not doing college basketball any favors.
But you also aren't doing your team any favors. Yeah. Like, if you've got a team that can handle it, go on the road. It will help you. If you lose, who cares? Like, it doesn't affect Alabama one bit that they went to Mackey and lost.
Right.
It's a top 15 game. Yeah, and it's the hard part is we lose the Gavitt games and the Big Ten ACC Challenge. We've lost a lot of those November and December home and homes.
Yep.
I think the SEC plays the ACC in like January.
Yeah.
They do like a crossover.
Yeah.
But there's some good games from that. You get Kansas, Kentucky. That's awesome. Like that's cool. But we need more of that, because that's the best part of the sport. When you watch college basketball,
even this week, Rob, we've gotten, it's not loaded. It's not loaded. And I'm fine with that in a way, because again, you got Purdue, Marquette. You can focus on one game. I'd rather have two, a 7 o'clock and a 9 o'clock each night. And then tonight, as we're recording here, we're going to have Alabama, Illinois, and Birmingham. And that's, again, one big game. I'm fine with that. Have one big game every single night from November 4th until conference play starts. Try to do it. And the beauty now, you can do it because you don't just have ESPN and Fox anymore. You've got Peacock. You've got Amazon. You've got you can throw it on whatever
Turner's
you want.
in the mix. Yeah, everybody is airing games. Right. I just think we need to have college basketball play to its greatest strength. Yeah. And that's the pageantry and the atmospheres of big time college games. Yeah. If you wanted to watch the highest quality basketball, you would watch the NBA.
Right.
But fans feel so strongly about their schools and where they went and where they grow up rooting for. And when you watch a game like a Bama Purdue or a Marquette Purdue last night, or there's other examples like that, we've had other home and homes. But those are the games where you leave, if you're there, or you watch on TV and you're like, man, that looks awesome. I watched today, because I'm doing the Ohio State game Friday. I watched Ohio State, Texas. Pretty fun game, actually. Ohio State shot the hell out of the ball in the first half and then got in the paint a bunch in the second. And Texas came back. The crowd was abysmal in Las Vegas.
Awful.
It's like playing, it's like an AAU game, but it's far and football's still going on and it's a one-off. But that's not better. If that was played at Texas or at Ohio State, and now granted, those two places aren't the greatest environments, it'd be better. We need to play to the strengths of the sport, and by playing neutral site games a lot of the time, and the semi-neutral ones aren't bad. Like, that will be a good environment in Birmingham tonight for Illinois and Alabama. But
how about
showcase the best part, show our great venues, that's what we need.
I'm going to Vegas next week for the Players Era, and Kansas Duke plays there. That'll be full. Kansas Duke, we know.
Yeah, but that's not the same. Those are two national
what about
brands.
Players Era, Houston, Alabama. Houston, Alabama, 2 top 10 teams probably in the country at that point. It could be abysmal with a crowd. Could be.
But I get it, because these schools are looking at unbelievable NIL opportunity and split the money. So like the road, but I just think we've got to look at it from this is the betterment of the sport. Yeah. And we need, as college basketball evolves and sports and people's interest in sports evolve, that's the best part. So let's showcase the best part.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. All right. Before we go, I want to hit on one thing, NBA related, just because it's kind of college related, but NBA. Dalton Knecht. He slipped all the way to number 17, I think it was the Lakers. 17? 16? Something like that.
Yeah, it was deep like that.
I think it was 17 for the Lakers. He fell, and he started off slow, but now the Lakers have been winning, and Knecht has been averaging almost 25 a game over his last 4 games. He's shooting 21, I think, of 31 from 3 over that stretch. He had 37 points and tied a rookie record with 9 threes last night. Obviously, we know his story, right? I mean, JUCO, Northern Colorado, Tennessee, was the second best player in the college basketball in the country last year behind Zach Edey. And now he's showing people like, all right, like what the hell happened? Now, the sources that I talked to, Rob, said that one of the reasons that Dalton Knecht slipped was because teams were worried, honestly, about his kind of, I don't know if his basketball IQ or just his ability to pick stuff up quickly, but it wasn't really the on the court like skill part of it, because Dalton Knecht could shoot the hell out of it. He could score the hell out of it. He's a bucket getter. So whatever reason it was, I guess, like, why the hell did this kid slip?
Yeah, and it's crazy that you could slip because you don't interview well or you do bad on a test, or, you know, like we interviewed him for Westwood One before the Purdue game, and he was quiet. Like, he wasn't the most energetic interview I've ever done by any means, but that doesn't mean that you can't go on the court and have a big game. And man, if you look at the way he played against Purdue in that Elite Eight game, other than if Edey doesn't go for 40 and 14 or whatever he went for, you'd be like, man, Dalton Knecht he's definitely the player of the year, because he was killing Purdue. And he ran it like Rick Barnes ran NBA action for him. They'd pin him in and they'd have him play. He can get to his pull-up. He can play make for other people. He's got a big-time jumper. He's a really good athlete. I was surprised last year in preparing for that game. I was looking at the college basketball analytics site, and he was like leading. I want to say leading. He led the SEC in fast break points per game. Okay. So like in terms of getting out in the open floor, and then he was like top 15 nationally. So like you're talking about a guy that's explosive athletically, has a big-time skill set, and plays in NBA actions. And then you're like, well, why wouldn't that all translates to the next level, you know? And the draft is a crapshoot. Like I don't want it to make it sound like we're like, oh, we knew that Knecht would be, you know.
No, we didn't. But
that's
it was
not
also
what I'm saying.
A horrible draft.
There's a lot of data that would say this guy can translate because he's 6'8", he's athletic, he's got a burner for a jumper, and he's played in a system that is going to run NBA type stuff from. There would be question marks about his ability to guard. So I know even Rick Barnes thought that he was not a good defender a lot of the time last year, but his team was able to cover it up. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy. And I'm shocked that he slipped to 17 and was on draft night when I was sitting next to you.
You wonder too, Rob, how much, and again, some of these NBA guys get so caught up in this, 23 years old. You wonder how much that also factored in, because, and I think it's stupid because at this point, because you're only going to have a guy generally. You're not going to.
Well, how many guys are you holding on to for the next 14 years?
That's what I'm saying. Maybe
they're going to go somewhere else, you know, like most of the time. Right. So, yeah, I agree. If you're productive, you're productive.
And you want a guy that can help LeBron and AD now.
That too. So they need somebody that's not a project.
He's been great.
The year before they took Jalen Hood-Schifino. He's 19 years old. He's never been able to crack the rotation.
No, he's gone. You know? He's going to be gone now. They didn't even exercise his option. So, you know, you're talking about Dalton Knecht being able to help LeBron now. And just baffling to me. And he immediately goes into the leader for NBA Rookie of the Year, because honestly, the group has been underwhelming to say the least. And that's
who else has been good. Edey's been solid.
Jared McCain.
Oh yeah, he's played well for Philly, right?
Because Maxi's been out. It's all about opportunity too. No, Let's face it. For these guys, it's all about like who gets hurt, who's going to tank. You'll see somebody in the second half of the year. You watch come on strong and make up a lot of ground.
Yeah, but it's also hard if you're on a bad team that's tanking. Good luck playing well.
Right.
It's hard.
Well, like you're going to put up numbers, though. But you're going to put up numbers.
You have the opportunity to do that, but your game better be suited to do that. Like if you're depending on others to create and you're just going to stand in the corner and no one's ever like actually getting open, it's pretty hard.
Good luck. So, what do you got this week? So you got the big Campbell Ohio State game Friday?
Yeah, and I'll see Indiana play UNC Greensboro tomorrow.
Oof. You love bye games.
I just go where they tell me, dude.
Yeah, I got Charleston. I got 8 teams here.
You don't do shit.
8 teams. I may go to Myrtle on Friday.
What a rough life you live. I'm going to San
I'm
Diego.
not going to
next
the
week,
beach.
though, so.
I go to 4 games. I'm not going to the beach to go to Myrtle.
You're not going to 4 games. You haven't gone to 4 games since 2006 at the Peach Jam.
No, I grind it out. I grind it out.
Yeah, you're a grinder, all right.
I'm gonna play some more pickleball maybe now, although it's not going to be against FAU since they've completely ghosted me.
I think
They're
I don't think it was that you were playing so well. I think they just don't like you.
I think that's
I
what
think
it is.
that's what it was.
No, the worst part was, so you play like it's like pick up pickleball down here, right? So there's people waiting, and we kind of took over. There were only it's tennis courts. And
they've got to have down there. They've got to have like a facility for pickleball. It's
they
huge.
do, but it's up about 20 minutes, and it's indoor. It's indoor, so it's much nicer to play outdoor, obviously here. So we're playing, and like people are waiting, and I felt bad, but the FAU guys evidently didn't because we just kept playing for a little while longer, and then they had to go. But I give Jacobs a lot of credit because a lot of coaches, and he's learned from. Think about who John Jacobs, the first-year FAU head coach, learned from. He learned from Mark Few and Scott Drew, and he learned the balance from Mark Few. And I said to him, I'm like, man, I can't believe you're out here playing. Now they've had days off. They played Saturday.
So they've had plenty of time to prepare. Like, what else could you do?
Right. They didn't go back. They didn't go back to Boca. They stayed here. So yeah, he's but I give him credit. First-year head coach. He's pretty chill. And
a lot of guys would be like, I got to hang on to this job.
Right. And I'm not going out. Like, I'm not going to play pickleball because how is that going to look? Right.
But
like,
it's also exercise.
It is.
It's no different than going out for a jog. It's more fun than that. That's for sure.
Yeah. You just.
But Mark Few is the ultimate in work-life balance. So he learned.
The ultimate. There's nobody better. There's nobody better. All right. Well, listen, thanks for making me wait. So now it's late enough that I probably have to run down there to try to get in.
Get a little jog in. Get a little jog in there.
I'm gonna get in. Yeah, I'm gonna get in there. So we'll see you next week. You can break down Campbell and UNC Greensboro next week for us.
Sweet.
Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Goodman and Hummel presented by BetMGM, and make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe because if you don't,